Straight from the edge, it's time for some daytime drama. Over on Y&R, Victor, he did make the reveal to Sharon that Adam was alive. And, of course, she's totally bewildered by how this could even be possible. And she obviously wants to meet and see for herself that all of that is true. And so Ray comes back and she basically says what kind of help that Adam had given her in the past when she'd burned down Victor and Nikki's ranch home, and numerous things, and that she owed him something in all of that to try to help him if he really did lose his memory, and if she can help Victor jog that, she feels that she should. And Ray, he's supportive of her because they're, newly in love, and he wants her to work through whatever she needs to, and he's going to obviously be a point man to try to figure out where he's at, because he's a PI and a police officer, obviously. So Nikki shows up, and so they have all four of them in the room, it seems, and seems like Sharon had told Nick back home, and so she does make contact on phone, and Adam doesn't respond, but at some point she gets a response back to meet him at a certain place in town there in Vegas. And so she does try to go to this location, park or something, and he doesn't show, and he's kind of spooked because all of them are in town, and if he's going to talk to anyone, it's going to be Sharon. And so she ends up getting them to all go back. It seems like Victor kind of stays behind and is not really going to make his presence apparent, but she is able to convince Adam to come back. So Ray had left prior to that, though. He'd gotten a call from Lola, and basically Arturo was talking to Lola and inadvertently got her on the fact that Mia was the one that had pushed her, into the pool at the Abbott estate. And, he tried to backtrack and say, and not reveal that he knew and all that. No, it didn't work at all. But, of course, Lola went to confront Mia about it, and she wasn't able to basically not reveal that it was her and apologize and everything. And so Lola realizes that she doesn't want to send her sister-in-law to prison, and then have the baby there. And so it's in the best interest of their family, like basically Arturo kind of had done, and also Ray. And so she also kind of realized that she owed Mia something because she wouldn't have known about her liver, which was unrelated to the accident, had that not happened. So she doesn't really want to press charges, and Abby finds out as well, and realizing that actually Mia was trying to get her because she's wearing the jacket. Lola was wearing Abby's jacket, and that Mia was targeting her. So she, is apprehensive about this, but she reluctantly goes ahead with what Lola says to do, to not press charges, not to call the cops. And so Ray's coming back to deal with that, and basically when he gets there, he does admit to Lola that he knew as well, and she couldn't believe it, but she did understand after they kind of worked through it a little bit. But I liked Abby saying, I'll keep your secret for now. And this led to, obviously, Ray's back in town, and Paul's still on the hunt to figure out who had pushed Lola, and he'd been setting up Ray to see if he was going to cover for Mia, which he suspects, and Ray knew that he was probably being set up. So Paul did go over to the athletic club and saw Mia, basically packing a bag and like, oh, what's going on here? And she gets so far, and then she just completely melts down and admits everything that she did, and saying that she, the circumstances and explaining it poorly or whatever. And so she kind of buckles over with some, cramps, and saying she has pain in her stomach, and they go to the hospital, Ray and Arturo, and basically they're there realizing the situation, and they're like, well, we need to get a DNA test and figure out who's the father so we can kind of figure out our path going forward. Arturo and Mia basically reconnected, and they want to go to Miami and start over if it's their baby together. And so they do the test, and later it is revealed when Sharon's back in town, both of them go off in their separate directions, and Arturo finds out that he's the father with Mia, and so he's happy because they're back together now, and they're going to just start this new fresh thing, and they don't have to worry about Ray's the father now that Arturo's the father. So and then back over at Sharon's, Ray gets his, letter too, and he finds out he's not the father. And so Sharon, who's very perceptive, realizes that although he's relieved, he also, because of his history with Mia, and the fact he wanted to have a child, that basically he has some level of disappointment and some confliction. And so he was able to let that down a little bit so that she could see the emotion that he had. And so Summer and Kyle are... Oh, well, before I go on, so basically Ray talks with Paul and goes through all this, and Paul's like, well, I don't have anyone that's going to press charges, so I can't do anything. And he kind of goes through his disappointment with Ray, but at the same time, Ray was brought in there to clean up Paul's mess with JT, so it's like Paul has a lot of problems in all this too, and he's taken, he's done no wrong, which, whatever. And Ray just doesn't care at this point. And so Summer and Kyle are going to New York to talk with the influencers for the new line at Jabot. And when they come back, basically Kyle wants to spend more time with Lola, and so he's somewhat skirting his responsibility, but not really a lot. And Summer's pushing full bore into trying to get these people on board with everything and smooth it over and whatnot. And they'd gone to society, obviously, and Lola was the chef there, and so they liked Kyle and all that. But Summer brought it to, of course, Jack, saying Kyle's not being responsible enough, and maybe you should put him on another project that's just bookworm stuff. But through all this with the influencer, she drank a ton, and she has half a liver now, so you're putting yourself in some danger with that, where she could have problems. So I'm not sure what the writer's doing there, but they certainly had Kyle screaming in her ear to say that why are you drinking and doing all this stuff, which was at least something to acknowledge that in the story. So Phyllis is pushing on Summer as well, because she's trying to start up her own company from the money she got from Billy to make an accessories line. And so she wants to try to match up with the art style direction of the clothing line that they're doing at Jabot and Fenmore. And so she's asking her daughter for, you know, a little tip, like, give me something to work with so I can try to, like, get ahead of the curve. And basically, she's like, I can't do that. Like, that's, you know, kind of espionage or whatever. And she says no. And Summer takes it a step further. Well, first of all, Phyllis kind of takes her daughter's code to get into her computer and tries to figure out what's there, can't find anything, does admit it to her daughter. And so Summer's just like, I can't believe you did this and put me in this position, you know, this job. And that's just not really courteous to do to me when I'm working hard to show my worth at Jabot, and you had, you know, your opportunities of whatnot, even though it didn't work out. Don't pull me down too. So Summer does end up going to talk to Jack and tell her, you know, what her mom's up to. And of course, Jack's just like not shocked at all. And thankful that Summer had been doing all this for Jabot, and even kind of ratting her out her mother, but doing it in a way that she's trying to make sure she doesn't actually get into trouble. And he says, you know, like, go after her, you know, criminally, but and he does actually go, he texts Phyllis, you know, gotcha, and Phyllis is pissed. She runs over to see Summer and say basically like, I can't believe you sold me out. And luckily Nick was there, and he's like, I can't believe you put our daughter in this position. And of course Phyllis is like, you're always making me out to be the bad guy, and everyone else can get away with small things, and you always think the worst of me and whatever. And they're really just backing Phyllis into a corner where she feels like she wants revenge for the fact that all this has happened, but at the same time, you know, you have Lauren there saying, you know, Phyllis, you have so many gifts. Work on your talents and move forward and build your own thing, that you're not relying on all these other people. And great advice. And she's getting that also from Summer. So Lauren said, follow what we're, you know, even though you are strong and you don't want to take advice from anybody, the two people that love you the most, you know, take our advice here. So you also have Kane continuing to search for what he wants to do with his life now that Lily's not in it. And you have Traci helping him out and talking him through it, and he's really appreciative, and he kind of says to Traci, well, you know, what's going on with you? And Traci says, well, nobody's asked me in such a long time. And you know, he's trying to have that reciprocal relationship, you know, that you should have when, you know, you're trying to build friendship more. And so she, you know, realizes that, oh, she has a lot of things going on that she's had to deal with her sister and brother, and they're fighting. And so basically she does unload a little bit with him. And of course, she's also having this entire she's writing a book using him as kind of a template for her character. And so that they're doing this whole film noir, black and white, you know, just really cool, you know, almost like a Mickey Spillane PI sort of thing. Just a ton of fun, what they're doing with that. And then it kind of goes a step further where he comes over and he's sitting there, you know, himself, but then she's visualizing him as the character, and then she sees him from the top up, you know, completely without clothes on, and so she's kind of almost not quite blushing, but out of her element, and he's like, what's going on, you know? And so she's got a little bit of traction going, and I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this. You know, Kane's being so nice to her, and obviously she's being nice to him, and just something might happen there, and it's kind of exciting to see what they're going to try to do. And it could just remain a fantasy in her head, because she does want him to ultimately go back to Lily, but she's having feelings of her own. So, fun to see. So Devon had to step in with Anna and Tessa, because Anna is just pushing so hard with Tessa to kind of make it where it conforms. Tessa's conforming more to a business model, instead of realizing that Tessa has more attributes that can be utilized that they don't really realize yet. And so he had to step in because they couldn't even get a recording done. And he'd worked with Tessa before and realized she needed to, warm into this. And so he did smooth it over, but, I still see trouble coming in that area, with the two of them. But Devon probably will be the mediator again. And then also Devon, he did do a little bit of an overstep, with Elena, and he basically, he had wanted to know more about her mother passing and why she was reluctant to talk about her, and he kind of Devon asked Jett, like what's going on, and it was a little bit like you went behind her when she said she didn't want to talk about it, and you knew even from that point that she was going to have a problem. And then when she found out that he did go behind her, that why'd you do that? I thought we had something we're building here, and as far as a friendship and whatnot. And so he realized he kind of screwed up. Then he was having kind of a nightmare, thinking, about things, and then he woke up thinking that she was Hillary, and he kissed her, and he apologized, and then she's like, well, you kissed me, but she didn't really want an apology, and then he gave it, but just funny stuff. And they're doing this nice slow dance, and he did say, I want to take you out, and she's thinking, well, maybe we will actually have our own kiss that is between the two of us. So that's going to be fun to watch. But they're working on that nice and slow, and just nice, sweet way to do it. So Sharon obviously is working with Adam back at town and trying to acclimate him a little bit to things. He's still using the pictures to try to acquaint who's who, and he does end up seeing Nick for the first time, it seems. And Nick, of course, is like, he had mixed feelings about, like, he obviously knows Adam's past, but then he kind of did realize that this guy doesn't know who he is, and he was somewhat relieved to see his brothers alive. And obviously, remember back, Adam entrusted Nicholas with the kids to take care of them, and so they did have an understanding way back, I think it's about 2.5 years, 2 years ago. So yeah, but they're obviously apprehensive with him there, and then Victor's going to try to manipulate Adam back into the corporate aspect of it. So we'll see how that goes. But of course, Abby runs into Adam and is completely shocked because no one told her. And Adam realized at some point, because it seems like Victoria and Billy came, that it was Abby, and he basically said that he he hadn't been a part of any of that, who was unveiled, but Victoria was there, and Abby was basically like, nobody told me, I can't believe this, like, because she always feels sidelined, like nobody thinks of telling her anything. And so what was kind of neat is Adam smoothed it over, like, for them, and so it kind of was a nice change in that dynamic, because he doesn't know who he is and all that. So it's interesting to see how that's going to play out as brother and sister there. But of course, Billy is just devastated over Delia, and now Adam's back, and it just brought all these feelings up. And so Billy is saying all this to Victoria and then confronting Adam with what he had done when he had his memories. And Jason just doing a great job there. Tons of emotion. Just really felt it. And through all of that, Adam realized that Victor's dumped him into all this and manipulated him. And furthermore, he even Victor took him over to Nick's again, and to see his son, and Nick was obviously upset about that. Christian, and because he wasn't even informed, and Victor just did this just to jog the memory and didn't care about anyone else, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all worked out. But luckily Adam said we don't need to do this, so Nick felt more or less threatened, and they did it. It didn't jog Adam's memory, and he's staying at the tack house, so he hasn't really had anything really click yet. But he does have an agenda of his own, because he's still speaking with that girl back in Vegas, or someone else, and we'll see how it all plays out. So Billy and Victoria realizes that she does want to move forward with the relationship, but she doesn't want to move forward with the marriage part, and she didn't really say that she'd never do it, but that it just she didn't feel she was in a place to feel comfortable with that level of things, considering everything she's gone through with JT. She didn't go into that, but basically that's a component. And Billy's trying to be understanding, and with soulmates and twin flames, I mean, obviously you can make a go at it when you're not in a marriage, but the whole marriage aspect, where you have the support of family, and you're bringing in the Father, God, to support the marriage. You have more support system when things go awry, that can keep you together through hard times. Whereas if you're not devoted through marriage, some people can just up and not put all the extra effort and work in to sustain it. And so Victoria's kind of being a little short-sighted at the moment. I do think they'll consider it down the road, because Billy, as the person proposing, he is putting himself obviously out there, saying he's willing to go that extra step for the relationship. And I think she will warm up to it, but it's good that they're bringing this sort of thing up, because this is something that goes on all the time nowadays, and how each relationship deals with it for themselves. So good stuff going on in Y&R. Over on GH, Jax is back, and he's there to deal to help out with Josslyn, or deal with the passing of Oscar. And it's just nice to have him back on. The presence, and Josslyn can lean on him, and it just feels like a nice fit coming back, considering the loss. And sounds like Jack's gonna be back for a while, so good on that. They do have Oscar's memorial service, which he wanted to be a celebration instead of a funeral. And he said no black. You even had Jason showing up, not in black. He had a slate shirt on, and close to black, but not black. And that was fun to see. That they, the wardrobe, they had the subtle touch, and I'm sure that Oscar would have been tickled by that too. So then you also had Cameron, he did show up from a little push from it seems like Trina and a little bit maybe Franco too. You know, you can't miss this. This is really important. And even though it was really soon for them, and Josslyn was really soon for her as well. So, you know, they're having a hard time dealing with it. And Kim did speak about her son, and so she kind of revealed to the group that the reason they moved to Port Charles, which some of them might not have known, was she knew he had the brain tumor before he did, and she knew that he had some family maybe in that area and maybe would bump into them and whatnot, and had no idea that they'd ever find Drew. But you know, he had gotten to reconnect with his family before he passed, and so she was thankful for having them brought into the family, the cast. Yeah, so Quartermain. So and all the other extended families. So very touching moments, and Drew, and just tons of emotion there. Oh, and then Oscar, he had a request to have Drew and Jason build a playhouse at the Quartermains for all the kids, and you know, he's really trying to work Drew and Jason back together as brothers, and it's something that Oscar can see his father and uncle, you know, that they never knew each other existed, and then he doesn't want them to miss out because of the shared memory and all that, and he's working from past living to help them, and just nice stuff added there. You also had Sam and Jason, you know, slip their hands together a little bit. They're in public, so they got to pretend that they're not together, but at the same time, they wanted to show each other some love and support. Obviously, he lost his nephew and her nephew. So that was a sweet little moment there to catch. And so going back a little bit, Sam had busted in the front door to save Sam from the tattooing that Shiloh was going to do. So he's all alone there, and was, you know, going to rape her at the end. And Jason comes in and just knocks him on the head and knocks him out. She's like, we can't do this, you know, we don't have the blackmail stuff yet. And so he goes to get the papers in the room. He leaves, later realizes that they're not real. They're just blanks. Shiloh had moved them ahead of time. Destiny, I think. And so Sam, you know, smooth it over with Shiloh saying, you know, this some person came in, didn't even say that it was Jason, and did all that to continue her cover. And Shiloh seemed to have bought it, and she helped ice the head, you know, all that. And she did end up leaving for the night. And then she's dealing obviously with Oscar, so she has some reason to not continue forward with her ceremony and whatnot. And so also you have Michael brought Willow to Kristina and Alexis and Sonny and Neil, and you know, Willow obviously tells Kristina of the just devastation that she experienced as a young woman with Shiloh, and her mother had brought her into this cult, and you know, they're essentially brainwashed, and that she believed all of the stuff that he was all about. And you know, the ceremony, so she'd gone through with being in the trust, and it involved a tattoo, and that they were drugged, and that, you know, she didn't know how to classify it. She did have sex with him willingly, but obviously she's drugged, and she felt completely ashamed of what had happened because that wasn't her intention to do that, and that he took advantage of her as a young woman, and she was trying to get this across to Kristina, what the full effect of this was going to be for her. And she did an amazing job doing that, and obviously they were all thankful that she shared it, and it did click into Kristina that this, was what was going on. And everyone started to leave, and then of course Chase showed up at the door. He did track them down finally, and it seems like somebody's phone or something like that, I'm not sure, or followed Willow, because he knew that his girlfriend was with Michael to do something like this. So Kristina covered, didn't say that she was kidnapped, and so that was nice for Chase that he didn't have to arrest all these people. He realized that his girlfriend had been involved in all this, and he was thankful that she had done it and that he didn't have to follow through with his duty as a police officer, as a detective. And so pretty cool to see. So Kristina, when she did get out, she's living back with Alexis, and she's like, she doesn't say it, but she needs to confront Shiloh and tell him off for all of this stuff, and she does. And he's like, oh, you're going through this, and you're welcome back anytime. And she leaves, and of course, she's upset, and she does run into her sister Molly, and Molly just hugs her right away. Molly, she just has that like forgiveness for her sister. She knows what had happened, and it ends up that Peter August walks by, and Kristina and Molly are there, and Molly runs over to him and says, she explains who she is and her connection to everything, and says she has this story, and that he said he didn't have time, but he said, here's a card, it sounds like might have something here, and seemed really interested. And of course Molly's just graduating from Port Charles University, and so I think there's going to be some fun storyline there for Molly. I'm excited to see that. So Willow got caught a couple times with Michael by Nina, and Nina is like, doing the whole like, I'm watching you, because she really wants Sasha, she thinks her daughter with Michael, and she thinks Willow's like two-timing with Michael and Chase, and there is an attraction there between Willow and Michael that she's picking up on, and Chase even kind of caught a glimpse of it a little bit, but brushed it off. When it comes out that Wiley is actually Michael's and not Willow's, there might be some bond there down the road. We'll see how that all plays out, but I really do like Chase and Willow together, so just have some fun with it. Chase and Finn are talking as brothers, because Finn wants to propose to Anna, and he has a ring and everything, and he's now lost the ring. So the ring has been recovered by Robert, and he realizes Robert has it, and he's not giving it back, and he's upset about it, obviously. And so Chase is kind of pressing him still about it, like, you still should go forward with it, but Finn wants to have the ring, and he had a special, blue, I can't remember, gem, and so Robert loses the ring too, to Mike. Mike recovers it at Kelly's, and he's going to propose to his girlfriend with it because he has no memory of anything, and he thinks that it's his ring that he got for her. So that'll be fun to watch. unfold. But he does use the ring there for that. And then Robert gets a fake ring because Mac, his brother, they're like, well, let's go get something that Finn's not going to recognize. Finn recognized in 2 seconds that it wasn't the right ring that he'd specially gotten. So basically they had the whole thing unfold where Robert and Mac and Felicia were discussing it and marriage and all this stuff, and Anna came and overheard them and is thinking Robert is going to propose to her, which it's actually Finn. And so there's all this misunderstanding, but Robert also is having some feelings towards her that he didn't realize, because Finn is this younger buck coming up, and he's realizing maybe there is more with Anna, and so it's fun to watch. But you also have Robert saying to Anna, after the whole aftermath of Anna thinking that Robin wasn't their kid, he did interject, you haven't thought about Peter being actually Alex's and not yours. And so it got all the wheels going in her head, and she basically almost convinced herself that Peter wasn't her kid, and that she actually did want to not tell him. But Finn did say, you're just playing this all out in your mind, and you don't actually know this. And Robert was saying, basically like, you need to cut this guy loose and everything. And so Finn was supportive, whereas Robert was saying he wanted Peter out because, this was an opportunity to do so. And Anna's having none of it. So nice to see all that going down. But you also have Ava and Kevin getting closer, trying to convince the world that they're together. And there is some underlying attraction going on there, mainly on Ava's part. But, Kevin's seeing she's a beautiful woman, and that as bad as her reputation is, that he sees people from his own experiences, not what other people say. So very nice play there. And then, of course, they're kissing to try to make it for any photographers come by, and Julian sees it, comes out, and get off my sister, and they're playing it up. They see the cameras, and of course Julian decks Kevin, and they end up calling the cops and everything. Somebody does, and then they never back down on the whole thing about pressing charges. So Julian, not knowing this is all fake, he gets charged with it. When they catch Ryan down the road, though, they'll, I'm sure, smooth that over for legal stuff. But you also had Alexis working to help him get out or off the charges, out of jail, and she runs into Neil. So Alexis and Julian are sitting on the bench, and Neil comes up, and she introduces them, and of course Julian realizes he needs to move on, and so he leaves, and then of course Alexis says, objects in the mirror may appear closer than they actually are, which, obviously with the memory thing there, they not realizing that they threw that in, the writers threw that in there, kind of funny, but they probably don't realize that. But it was nice to see that statement. Little meatloaf going on there. Yeah, just fun stuff. So you have Laura and Curtis. They're up in Toronto, tracking down Ryan, and they realize they have a lead, and they find a woman who has all this mail and everything, and then she does end up calling them to say, come on over, I'll tell you everything. And of course, when you get there that Ryan's killed her and stabbed her in the heart and gone. And so they feel somewhat bad about that. But then, Ryan's still in the house. There's no cell phone signal. He knocks out Curtis. And then you get Laura getting her nice Scream Queen time in there. And the next day, of course, you see them tied up, and gas is going and everything, and they, of course, are able to scratch their way, well, a little bit, and then it seems Laura's able to untie Curtis, and they get out just in the nick of time, of course, as the explosion happens. Fun to watch, though. And before that, though, Maxie and Peter are up also in Toronto, and so they're having some kind of like blizzard sort of thing going on, which, you know, it's middle of May. I mean, you know, you got the double polar vortex maybe still going on a little late in the year, I guess, there, but that was kind of interesting that they needed to use that to get them stuck. And so Laura and Curtis had gotten stuck with them for a while. They played games and had kind of pushed them, saying, you know, life's too short, you know, just move forward with the relationship, and they do, and that was nice to see before they came back to Port Charles. So the GH Nurses Ball is first half in full effect here on Friday, and you know, they're having some fun with it. Sam actually had stopped Shiloh from having his own event, and he was saying, oh, this, you know, that's just a bunch of wealthy people that have an excuse to have a party and everything, and that it essentially was vain. And she was like, it's a ton of fun, and that it was really to help people, you know, and to give it a chance. And so she said, you're coming as my date, and he did decide, all right, I'll do it. And so she's still playing this cover, you know, and he's the cult guy showing up at the GH Nurses Ball. So, you know, Sam, nice, beautiful dress coming in, and then Nina, nice lavender dress there. And, you know, I guess guys aren't really supposed to talk about it, but, you know, nice coloring on Willow. Had the showstopper. I mean, had this, I guess, light pink with coral and kind of like a green seafoam reflective sequins. Definitely, so far, nice, awesome showstopper dress, and beautiful woman. So excited to see how the Nurses Ball goes next week. So over on Bold, Sally did reveal the secret of Thomas's to Wyatt. And, you know, this came for her, obviously, where she is not so she's not she didn't come forward with it soon enough, and so Wyatt is kind of upset that his brother is not being thought of when she entered into this secret with Thomas, and he's disappointed that she's done this, and he, you know, he tells her that he can't believe she's done this when he doesn't like secrets, and she realizes what position he's been put in, and she says to him that you know, that she's gonna leave because she feels like she wasn't proper with him or whatnot, and he doesn't stop her, and I'm disappointed in that because they're such a great couple. And he doesn't, you know, say that he's kissed Flo and tell her, you know, that's he's done something to their relationship too. And so Liam, of course, gets a call from him, and he rushes right back from Paris or France, and when he comes to find Hope, he runs into Thomas, of course, but he's playing it off like he just came home, and she it seems like she was talking to Thomas about things prior. I'm not sure how that played out, but Liam just, played it like he's coming home early and whatnot. And then Thomas just couldn't stand the fact that he knew that Sally had told and that Liam had rushed right back, and he flatly told Hope that. And so Liam was kind of taken aback, but he defended. He's like, why are you trying to interject into my marriage? And I know you're going through all this, and we all are dealing with this too, but you have no right to come in and take my wife, and we're going through the loss of our child. And so he's just disgusted by all of this, but he's trying to be considerate to some extent, and Hope is also trying to defend Thomas, and so it's just a whole bunch of mess. But Thomas doesn't back down, and he's really essentially saying he's going to take the marriage there, and I think Liam's just completely taken aback. I mean, luckily he had Wyatt tell him about all this so he could get there, and Hope did, realize that she wanted Liam through all this. But you also have Zoe trying to entice Flo, with all the goodies. So saying, you need to keep quiet, and all of these riches will come your way, and just go to the dark side. And of course Flo has that good moral compass, and ultimately she's not going to be able to do that, because it won't be worth it to her, even all of these nice things, getting the job. And then now Quinn has invited Shauna and Flo to move in, and so through all of that, it's going to come out. And you already had at the end of the week, you saw Zoe coming and saying, what are you moving into the house for, and all that. And her and Flo were talking basically about what they're hiding from Hope. And Hope does come in the door and, what are you talking about, Beth, and all this. And so maybe it'll get revealed, I hope. But it's going to come out soon at some point. So Quinn also does feel a little bit like she did kind of do one over on Sally with that, because she did think Thomas and her were having some kind of little affair, and it was not really that. And so she did kind of try to smooth things over with Sally a little bit, but saying, hey, she wants her son with Flo. And Wyatt and Flo actually are both he's coming out of the fact that Sally and him are on a break, and that he is attracted to Flo. That's his first love, and she they have this just magnetic connection. And obviously with Quinn, Eric is still wanting to have Sally and Wyatt together, and we all should, because of how that dynamic is. But they're really working hard on that love triangle, and it's Wyatt he's fickle, and he matches well with everybody. I think he's been with almost every young, beautiful woman on the show, and he pairs well with all of them. And so going forward, he's got to figure out which one of these, choose who he wants to go forward with. And it would be disappointing if he doesn't really examine what he has with Sally, because there's something special there too. And so yeah, so Katie is concerned with Bill, because she did see Shauna, at the El Giardino's, and seeing that there was more maybe going on, and she had not accepted a proposal, and then she's worried, well, he's just going to move on, so I don't really want to be with him if that's the case, that he's moved on that quickly. So she does recruit Shauna to test Bill at his house. So, you know, Shauna gets this nice green cute number on and heads over and really does the job that Katie asked, and they've got the whole spy thing going where she's got her phone connected to Katie's, and she's got the earpiece in, and she's listening to everything. And then Bill stops himself, says, you know, Shauna, you're a beautiful woman, and if he wasn't in love with his ex-wife, that he would definitely consider starting something with her, but that he wanted his ex-wife. And so he stops himself. Shauna leaves, tells Katie, obviously, and then Brooke was reluctant with this whole thing because it probably would blow up in Katie's face. Katie does go tell Bill that she accepts the proposal, and he's just, what's going on here? And then she admits that she had set him up to see what he'd do, and then, you know, basically, I don't know if you can understand, and he says he's so proud of her that she'd done it. And so it's just a nice, fun moment there for them, and they're moving forward with things. Yeah, just a lot of exciting stuff. Keep researching out there.